Hello everybody and welcome to another Clash Mini video on the channel. In this video we're going to talk about the best and the worst minis. We're going to put them in a tier list and break down why I put them in each and every single tier. Let's jump right into this video. We're going to have some gameplay from yesterday when I was pushing. I was top 9 in the world last night, and I was pushing. This is the gameplay from some of those matches. That's going to be in the background as we go over the tier list. All right, here we go with the worst mini in Clash Mini currently. We have the Healing Ranger. The Healing Ranger, unfortunately, just does not get her super ability, just is never able to get any value. Healing right now in the game is not that great. You have a wizard with its 3-star ability that has heal cut, a lot of countesses that have heal cut as well with its feed level 5 ability. Unfortunately, the healing archer just doesn't cut it. Worst mini in Clash Mini, not really much to talk about there. Now, the second worst mini in Clash Royale, the Lumberjack, just doesn't really have a spot. Mini P.E.K.K.A does a little bit more, has the Dissipate to steal 2 mana from other heroes and from other minis, and it just is very underwhelming every time you play it, and it is 3 cost. Usually you can only have 2 3-cost units in your deck if you're going to run that, and unfortunately it just is not one of the best 3-cost minis. Next up, we have the Battle Healer. Unfortunately for the Battle Healer, it just doesn't really have a spot, in my opinion, in the meta. Right now, units get taken out instantly. Electro Wizards just stun everything, and there's a lot of stuns and displacements in the game, and I feel like it just doesn't get value. It can work in a Monk deck, it can work in a Barb King deck, but right now, currently, we're not really seeing any value. Maybe when heroes are level 10, that might change, but currently, right now, the Battle Healer, no bueno. We're going to put it in the D tier, and that is going to close out the D tier. Starting out the C tier, we have the Barbarian. At 2 cost, it is pretty cheap. It's decent, but it just doesn't fit in any of the meta decks right now, and it feels underwhelming every single time you play it. So for that fact, we're going to put it in the C tier. Maybe it can jump up to the B tier later, but I just feel like there's just way better 2-cost minis, so we're going to keep it down here. Next up, we have the Knight. The Knight, underwhelming at best. I feel like the Guard just does everything the Knight does, but just so much better. The 3rd star power only being -1 energy on its super ability. I just feel like it's underwhelming. It doesn't really get you too much value. How many times are you really going to get off your 1st and 2nd star to taunt everybody in and block 1 damage, especially with all the P.E.K.K.A.s out there now? The unit just gets evaporated from the battlefield. Really doesn't even do anything as far as, tank ability. So we're going to keep him in the C tier. I don't really see him moving up anytime soon unless that 3rd star ability gets changed. Next up, we have the Dark Goblin. The Dark Goblin, everybody came out hot on the Dark Goblin, was putting him at the A tier, was putting out one of the best, minis in the game. Unfortunately, it is not. I have to break it to everybody. It's a 3-cost mini. That is the biggest problem with the Dark Goblin. It doesn't get value. Like we mentioned before, 3-cost minis, you can only use 2 of them. And later on in this video, you will understand why the Dark Goblin, unfortunately, just doesn't have a place in the meta. Not going to get you enough value. The 2nd star ability where it stuns, underwhelming, and it just never is going to be able to ramp up to get that value. Maybe if you're using like a Monk healing deck or a Barbarian healing deck, possibly, but it's just not going to get you the value that you want. We're going to keep it in the C tier. Maybe it'll move up in the future, but right now it's just not there. Next up, we have the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie. One of those cards that's like a hit or miss. You're going to need to play a deck that has about 3 or 4 melee units for the Valkyrie to really be effective. And unfortunately, she just is not. With the healing after you kill a unit as pretty much her best star ability, it has to actually finish off the unit to get that. Most of the time, it's just not. You're going to have an Electro Wizard Zap that's going to take it out or something else. So the Valkyrie is just going to be in the C tier. It's a 3-cost mini. Another problem why it's here, it just doesn't have a place in the current meta. Next up, we have the B tier. These minis could fit in decks, but there just are better options. First up, we have the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Mini P.E.K.K.A. does good work. It does a lot of damage. It can counter the Shield Maidens, but unfortunately, Shield Maiden kind of got a big nerf with the last update, and the Shield Maiden's taken down, which means the Mini P.E.K.K.A. unfortunately can't be higher than the B tier. It's just, that's just how it is. Mini P.E.K.K.A. gonna be in the B tier. It's a good unit, solid unit, but it's a 3 cost. That's just all we have to say. You'll understand why I keep on saying, but it's a 3 cost later on in this video. You can only have 2 3 cost units. Mega Knight is the next mini up. Mega Knight, great ability. The stun is great. Everything is great. Most health in the game. That's a mini, not a hero. That's a mini, but it just feels underwhelming. It just, the stun is not there. That really makes that big of a difference. It's a tank, but it attacks too slow, doesn't really do much, isn't really that tanky. I just have to put it in the B tier. Underwhelming. There's a unit that does a lot more, a lot stronger, that we're going to see later on. I just can't move it up past the B tier right now. I just can't. Magic Archer is the next mini up. Everybody's probably looking at me and like, in chat, Magic Archer is definitely higher. Definitely higher. Unfortunately for the Magic Archer, it is a 4 cost unit. And later on in this video, you will see why the Magic Archer, unfortunately, has to be in the B tier, because you will never play it in your deck. And if you do play it in your deck, which you can, don't get me wrong, it's just unfortunately not as good as the other option that you can put that's a 4 cost unit. That's why it's in the B tier. Could possibly be in the A tier, but for me right now, if I'm building a deck, not really going to be one of my first options to put in there. But it's a great unit. Don't get me wrong. It's a great unit in Clash Mini. This is probably going to be one of the most hot talked about things in this, tier list, that it's in the B tier. But you know what? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Magic Archer in the B tier. Miner is the next B tier unit. Everybody's probably like, Enchatin. The Miner absolutely decimates everybody. Unfortunately, people use P.E.K.K.A.s. People know how to block. People use Countesses that go right back for the Miner. It's just no longer a unit that's sustainable in the A tier. Maybe earlier on I had it in the A tier, but now it's in the B tier. Everybody knows how to counter a Miner. Everybody's using cheaper units, being able to take care of the Miner. Even the big boys that stay in the back, take out the Miner. I just can't see the Miner really being that much value. Once we see more Archer Queens in the meta, once we see more of that, I could see the Miner potentially pushing on up. But right now, I'm going to put the Miner in the B tier. Next up, we have the Spear Goblin. Spear Goblin. Great unit. Not going to sit here and say it's not a great unit. One of the best early units that you can possibly get in Clash Mini. Unfortunately, you got to put it on the right tile. You put it on the wrong tile, and you hit a giant skeleton, or you just miss everything. The unit's worthless. Worthless. Okay? And you need 2 stars to make it good. So if you're using 2 stars to make it good for a unit that goes like this, it only does 1 damage. Okay? If it only does 1 damage doing that, and it misses the spear, you may as well put it in the F tier. Okay? And there ain't even no F tier in this list. But it is a good unit. You could chunk somebody. You could steal a round. If you put a sneaky one in there, especially maybe on a mirror, you sneak one in, you get some damage off. There is potential with the Spear Goblin. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's a worthless unit. But if it misses its spear, it's worthless. That's why I cannot put it higher than the B tier, no matter what. But it is pretty good. Not going to lie. Next up, we are moving on to the A tier. These are the minis that I think you should be playing in your decks. A and S tier are the minis that I think right now should be in your decks. First up, the Ice Wizard. Everybody is probably like in chat, nobody has the Ice Wizard above B or C tier in their tier list. Nobody I've ever seen. I'm sorry, guys. If you put an Ice Wizard with an Archer Queen or a Monk, okay, it's amazing. The value that you get from an Ice Wizard is insane. It slows down Countesses. It makes it not even be able to attack. It makes it not even be able to come to the back line, okay? Then, shuts down Monks. The Monk's Magic Palm ability is the biggest ability that it could do. But guess what? If it's slow and it can only attack 1 time every 2 seconds, it's never getting its super. It's never getting any value. You're going to be able to take that out, no problem. It might get off 1 Magic Palm, but it ain't getting off 2. Ice Wizard is one of those units that is absolutely necessary if you're playing an Archer Queen or a Monk deck, in my opinion. For that fact alone, I'm going to put it in the A tier. It's a great unit. You're going to find out in the next couple of days or week that the Ice Wizard has its place in this meta. I know a lot of people say it's a terrible unit. It is not. It's a great unit, and we're going to find out soon enough why it's a great unit once that happens. I'm all the way up here in the top 10 global right now, and Ice Wizard, when I play it, I'm scared of it. It slows down my Countess. It slows down my units. It really prevents what I want to do, and it's a very annoying card to play against. Next up, we have the Wizard. Why is the Wizard in the A tier? Now, everybody's saying, oh, the Wizard, it's such a good unit, this, that, and the other thing. Why? It's great because you have a level 2 heal cut. If they have, let's just say, a battle healer, if they have a Countess, if you're able to get a 2-star Wizard early, okay, so really it's a 1-star Wizard is all you need. You put the 3rd-star ability first on the Wizard, you do a heal cut on the Countess, okay? Then the Countess jumps to your backline. If it's a Countess versus a Countess matchup, which is a lot right now, that's kind of what the meta is. There are Monks and there are Archer Queens, but Countess is, most of the meta decks. It shuts it down. If their Countess goes to your backline and you go to their backline with your Countess, guess what? Theirs isn't going to get the +3 healing. They might even stop 2 +3 healings. That's 6 health on their Countess. You're going to be able to take out their Countess early, and the person who loses their Countess first in a Countess versus Countess matchup usually loses that matchup. Also, versus Monks, versus Barbarian Kings, versus Thick Boys, versus Shield Maidens, versus things that have a ton of units in the front line, you could put the 2nd-star ability to do 1 damage every 2 seconds, 2 units, and the huge splash damage versus all of the melee troops. It just does so much work and damage in those matchups. That is why it is on the A tier. Next up, we have the P.E.K.K.A. Why is the P.E.K.K.A. so great? Because it counters the Countess. If you have an Archer, you have an Electro Wizard, and you have a P.E.K.K.A. in the corner, locked in there, and their Countess comes out and hits your P.E.K.K.A., guess what? Your P.E.K.K.A. is going to demolish their Countess, and like we said before, when the Countess dies, that is their main thing in their deck. You're going to be able to open up and just run through them. Also, the P.E.K.K.A., if it ever does get a crit, and does a lot of damage, that's 6 damage it can do on its first swing. That could take out so much health on any mini in the game. It is crucial in some decks to play a P.E.K.K.A. It's a great card. Absolutely phenomenal card. The only decks that it really doesn't fit too well in, or should I say too well against, are versus Archer Queen decks. You don't really see too many of them in the meta. Archer Queen really ramps up at level 10, and right now, currently, a level 10 Archer Queen just nobody has. Next up, we have the Archer. Why is the Archer so good? It is my favorite mini in Clash Mini. The reason why it's my favorite mini in Clash Mini is because it takes out, Electro Wizards and Archer Queens. Right now, there's a lot of Archer Queen on the top ladder, and there is a lot of Electro Wizard. By a lot of Electro Wizard, I mean, there's a good amount. There's a good amount. So what the Archer does is it targets backline troops, and it does an amazing job of that, especially with 1-star targets 2 units at one time. It's just a unit that really gets to the backline, really does a lot of damage, and a lot of Countesses are there to clean up. Once the Archer really whittles down the enemy backline, 1 or 2 shots, it just gets so much value. Next up, we have the Skeleton Guard, and you're probably saying in chat, and the Skeleton Guard does not belong here. It does not belong in one of the best, 4 minis in the game. It just doesn't belong here, but it does. If you have a 3-star guard, and you get the 3rd ability first, and then the 1st ability, you have a 12 shield to start out the match. That thing ain't dying. Once you take care of that, then it's got to go through like 11 HP. After that, in order for it to fall, it just doesn't die. It gets off probably another shield. It gets off 24. It's got like 28 health in the match, okay? It just sits there and it just tanks forever. It is an absolute amazing unit, in my opinion. It fits in a lot of decks, and I think the guard is underrated right now, and I'm going to put him as my 4th best mini in Clash Mini. Next up, we have our S tier, the absolute best minis in Clash Mini. S tier, starting it off strong with the Bowler. Now, everybody is probably going to say, Enchatin, Bowler's not the best unit, one of the best units in the game. It's just not there. here's my argument to that. The bowler counters an Electro Wizard. And when you play in Electro Valley where there's a shock trap, the bowler is the only way you're going to prevent that enemy Electro Wizard from zapping all of your units right at the start of that match. The displacement is amazing. It prevents them from getting maximum value out of the shock tile, and it really does work if you hit 2 units early, if you get one in there, if you just shake and bake it, and you just put it in the deck and you hide it, you wait for the, 3rd or 4th round to pop it out, you hit 2 or 3 units in a line because they're playing units, they're playing an Archer Queen in a corner, you put your bowler in a corner and it rolls over, and it really could change the tide of a battle. Obviously, if you miss on a ball, it really does hurt, but if you hit on a bowler roll, it is phenomenal. It is why it is in the S tier. Just for the clash ability, I have to put it in the S tier. I just can't put it any lower. The fact that it really is the only counter to Electro Wizard in the game, I gotta put it in the S tier. I mean, in the comments below, let me know if I'm wrong, but it's just so valuable. It just really is. If you want to know why it's here, look at my last video, how to counter E-Wiz. That's why it's in the S tier. Next unit up is going to be the Giant Skeleton. What more can I say? Have you ever played against a Giant Skeleton and its bomb cleared out half your units in one shot? That's why it's here. It has a little bit of a stun. It does 3 damage to everything around it. You don't need to upgrade it to a 1-star, 2-star, or 3-star. You can leave it as is. You can put it in your front line. It's going to get value almost every game, no matter what. And it's just one of those units right now, until we see a lot of Archer Queens, it's going to stay in the S tier. When the meta shifts a little bit and a lot more people play Archer Queens, it's going to drop down to at least the A tier, possibly even the B tier, because it's not going to get so much value. But right now, you have at least everybody running 2 melee units and 6 damage after death, plus the amount of health you have as a tank. That's just unheard of. It's going to get 2 or 3 shots off. So it means, let's just say you get 2 shots almost guaranteed every single match with your Giant Skeleton, right? Then you get the death damage. The death damage is going to add another potentially 6 damage. That's 8 damage guaranteed from a mini. That's a tank. That's insane. That's 3 shots with a P.E.K.K.A. And it's only 3 elixir, which means it's 1 less elixir. Then guys, like we said in this video the entire time, this is a 3-cost mini, which means that and the bowler are the 2-3 costs you want to put in your deck. No other 3 cost really deserve to be in your deck. If you're going to use a mini P.E.K.K.A, mini P.E.K.K.A Giant Skeleton, mini P.E.K.K.A bowler, I don't know. I would put a bowler and a Giant Skeleton, and if you're going to use 3-cost units, this is your only option in my opinion. It really is. I mean, the Giant Skeleton is one of the best cards in the game, and the bowler's there for the Electro Wizard. That's, in my opinion, the only way to go. But let me know in the comments if you disagree with me. Now, we are going to go to our absolute best, unanimous. I don't think anybody is going to argue with me on this choice. Best mini in Clash Mini, Electro Wizard. Hands down. Hands down. Have you ever played against an Electro Wizard that zaps 4 of your units at one time? Have you ever played against an Electro Wizard that zaps 4 of your units at a time and then stuns them for 3 seconds afterwards? Is there anything more that I need to say? It's the best mini in Clash Mini, by far, absolutely, Electro Wizard. If you have it, all you need is 1 star for it to be absolutely phenomenal. Put it in your deck. I personally believe it needs to be in 99% of the decks in Clash Mini right now. It's just the way it is. Until there's another mini that either counters the Electro Wizard. I mean, the bowler doesn't do that amazing of a job at countering, but it does a little bit. Until there's another mini or 2 that can really stop the Electro Wizard from popping off, you got to put it in your deck. That's it. That's going to be it for the tier list on Clash Mini. In the comments below, let me know what you like, what you dislike about this tier list, where you think units need to be. This is a worst to best in order Clash Mini tier list. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Love each and every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for the support. We're going to be pumping out a lot of Clash Mini content on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time.